My grandmother turned 79 on a Saturday. She baked her own birthday cake. She set 8 places at the table. Then she sat alone for 3 hours while my parents posted ski photos from Aspen. The next morning, 2 strangers brought a sealed manila folder to her front door. On the front, in my grandmother's handwriting, were 6 words. When they come for the house, open this. By the end of that week, my brother had a failed house sale. My mother had no story left to tell, and my grandmother's kitchen table was still exactly where she wanted it. Welcome back to Valora Stories. My name is Nora Caldwell. This is the story of what happened after my family forgot an old woman at her own birthday dinner, then tried to sell her house before she forgot they were doing it. My grandmother Lorraine lived in a white 2-story house on Oakwood Lane. It was not huge. It was not trendy. It had a deep front porch, blue hydrangeas by the walkway, and a kitchen table older than every person who tried to sell it. That table came from her mother's house in Bridgeport, maple, scratched, coffee-stained, heavy enough that it took 4 men to carry it inside in 1974. Lorraine always said every scratch had a story: a Thanksgiving, a school project, a broken plate, a bad apology, a good one. I took my first steps under that table. I learned to read there. When I was 19, Lorraine helped me understand my first apartment lease because my parents had told me I was not ready to live alone. She had put on her reading glasses, grabbed a red pen, and said, "Never sign something just because the person across from you is smiling." That sentence came back to me later. A lot. The year this happened, Lorraine was 79. Her memory had started slipping. First it was names, then dates, then little things. The mail, the oven, where she had parked the car. My parents treated every mistake like proof she was already gone. I knew better. Because some days, Lorraine got lost looking for the bathroom. And some days, she looked directly at you and saw everything. My parents were in Aspen for her birthday. My mother, Diane, posted a photo wearing ski goggles and a fur-trimmed jacket. The caption said, "Blessed." My father did not text Lorraine. My brother Aaron sent one message at 4:15 in the afternoon. "Happy birthday, Gran. Skiing is amazing." That was all. I was in Hartford after work when I realized nobody had mentioned her birthday in the family group chat. I called my mother. No answer. I called Aaron. Nothing. So I got in my car. 3 hours later, I pulled into Lorraine's driveway with a gas station bouquet on the passenger seat and a sick feeling in my stomach. The porch light was on. Every other window was dark. Inside, the kitchen told the whole story. 8 paper napkins. The good plates. A centerpiece of dried hydrangeas she had arranged herself. And in the middle of the table, a vanilla cake with buttercream roses. 79 written in pink gel. The candles had burned down so far they had melted into the frosting. A gallon of ice cream had gone soft beside it. Lorraine was sitting at the head of the table in her lavender cardigan, hands folded around a glass of water. She looked up when I came in. "Nora," she said. Then she frowned. "Is it Tuesday?" "It's Saturday, Gran." She touched the cake with one finger. "Oh." Her voice got quiet. "I thought I was making this for the church bake sale." I did not correct her. I cut the cake. We ate it with our hands, because neither of us felt like washing forks. I sang happy birthday once. Halfway through, she stopped me. "Start again," she said. So I did. I sang it twice. At 10, I helped her to bed. She weighed almost nothing. As I pulled the quilt to her chin, she grabbed my wrist. Her eyes changed. The fog lifted. For 1 second, she was completely there. "They think I don't notice," she whispered. I leaned closer. "Who, Gran?" But she was already asleep. The next morning, while I was wiping frosting from the good plates, someone knocked at the door. A woman with silver hair stood on the porch holding a leather briefcase. Beside her was a man carrying a small notary case. The woman looked at me. "Nora Caldwell?" "Yes." "My name is Ruth Adler. Your grandmother retained my firm 14 months ago." She held out a thick manila folder. It was sealed. Across the flap was Lorraine's signature. Strong, careful, not shaky at all. "She asked us to deliver this to you personally," Ruth said, "when the time came." "When the time came for what?" Ruth glanced through the screen door toward Lorraine's recliner. Then she handed me a business card. "Come to my office when you are ready." She lowered her voice. "And do not discuss this folder with your parents before we talk." Then she left. I stood on the porch holding it. The folder felt heavier than paper should. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Who is at Gran's house? Then another. Do not sign anything. I looked down at Lorraine's name across the seal. Then I turned my phone face down. At the kitchen table, I opened the folder. Inside was a trust document, a recorded deed, a durable power of attorney, a doctor's letter, and on top, a handwritten note on Lorraine's cream stationery. Nora, when they come for the house, open this. Everything you need is here. I love you. I'm sorry it has to be you. I read it 3 times. When they come for the house. Not if. When. Then I found the first clue that she had been right. A real estate lockbox was attached to the gas meter behind the hydrangeas. Someone had been showing her house. I went inside. I checked the mail pile. 3 weeks of unopened envelopes. Buried beneath a phone bill and grocery coupons, I found an off-market listing sheet. Oakwood Lane, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, listed at $680,000, $50,000 below the neighborhood value. Then I found the purchase agreement. The buyer was a cash investment company. The seller's representative was Aaron Caldwell, my brother. In the corner, on a yellow sticky note in my mother's handwriting, were 3 words. Closing target, November 15th. 3 weeks away. My hands did not shake. That was the strange part. I worked as a paralegal in elder law. I spent my days reading the documents people used when they were scared of losing control. Wills, trusts, guardianships, powers of attorney. I knew what a family looked like when money entered the room. I called my mother that night. She answered with the exact voice she used for church volunteers and restaurant hosts. Oh, Nora, how is Gran? There's a lockbox on her gas meter. Silence. Not long. Just long enough. Then she said, That's being handled. There's a purchase agreement in her kitchen. Nora, your father and Aaron are managing a transition plan. A transition plan? She cannot live alone forever. We are finding her proper care. And selling her house? My mother sighed. Aaron is in a difficult financial situation. The sale would help with Lorraine's care and give your brother room to recover. It's her house. Nora. Her voice changed, dropped. You need to be realistic. Your grandmother has dementia. She leaves the stove on. She gets lost. She does not understand what she owns anymore. Then she said the sentence I never forgot. She won't remember the house by Christmas. I looked toward the kitchen. At Lorraine's table. At the buttercream stain still faintly visible on the good plates. Then I said, Then it is a good thing I remember. And I hung up. The next morning, I drove to Ruth Adler's office. She had a small elder law practice in a converted brownstone. No dramatic lobby, no marble, just old rugs, framed diplomas, and a pot of tea already waiting when I walked in. Ruth sat across from me and opened her copy of Lorraine's file. Your grandmother came to me 14 months ago, she said. Alone. Alone? She was scared, but she was very clear. Ruth looked at me over her glasses. She said her son would do whatever Diane told him. She said Diane would sell the house the minute Lorraine became too confused to stop her. My throat tightened. She knew? Your grandmother knew exactly what she was protecting herself from. Ruth slid the trust document toward me. 14 months before, while Lorraine still had full legal capacity, she had transferred her house into a living trust. The house no longer belonged to Lorraine as an individual. It belonged to the trust. Lorraine had been the trustee while she was capable. But if she became unable to manage her affairs, the authority transferred to one person. Me. Not my father, not Aaron, me. And the house cannot be sold without the trustee's signature, Ruth said. I looked at the page. My name was there. Successor trustee, Nora Caldwell. My grandmother had not left me a house. She had left me responsibility. Then Ruth opened a second file. Your family has recently had Lorraine sign something. I nodded. A power of attorney. My father's name is on it. Do you know when? September 3rd. Ruth's face changed slightly. Do you know where Lorraine was that week? I did. I remembered the text from my mother. Gran took a tumble. Nothing serious. I went back to Oakwood Lane. I searched Lorraine's mail and found the hospital paperwork. September 3rd. Confusion, disorientation, fall risk. Recommended neurological follow-up. My parents had brought legal papers to a woman who had been hospitalized for confusion, and they had asked her to sign away control of her own life. That evening, Lorraine was sitting in her recliner with a crossword on her lap. I sat beside her. Gran, I said softly, Did Dad and Aaron bring papers here? She looked at me. For a second, nothing. Then her eyes sharpened. Aaron brought papers. Did you sign them? I don't know. She looked toward the kitchen. They bring strangers through when the nurse is here. My chest tightened. Strangers? They look at my cabinets. She stared down at her hands. Your father does not look at me when he visits. He talks to the walls. I took her hand. It does not matter what you signed. You already protected yourself. She squeezed my fingers. Thin grip, but deliberate. I'm not gone yet, Nora. I went to sleep that night with the folder under my bed. The next morning, Aaron walked in without knocking. He never knocked. He opened the refrigerator, grabbed a sparkling water, and smiled at me like I was a guest in his house. Taking some time off from your little legal job? Aaron, I said. I know about the sale. His smile adjusted. Not gone, just colder. Look, the company is in a rough patch. How rough? He took a drink. I have a balloon payment in 6 weeks. 740,000. I stared at him. So you are selling Grand's house. I am saving the family. You are saving your company. Same thing. No, I said. It is not. He set the can down harder than he needed to. Gran gets a nice facility. Mom and Dad stop worrying. I save 3 years of work. Everyone wins. Except her. She does not even know what day it is. She knows strangers are walking through her kitchen. His jaw tightened. Then he said the thing people say when they know they are wrong but need you to make them feel right. Do not make this difficult. We are family. I looked at him. Is that what you told her when you put papers in front of her? He did not answer. He walked out and left the empty can on the counter. I did not move it for a full minute, because it sat there like the whole family did, used, entitled, and expecting someone else to clean up after them. Ruth and I had 9 days before the closing. We did not spend 9 days shouting. We spent them building a file, the trust deed, the recorded transfer, the original power of attorney naming me, the doctor's capacity letter from when Lorraine was well, the hospital record from the week my parents got her to sign their documents, the recent cognitive evaluation confirming she could no longer understand legal decisions. Every page pointed in the same direction. Lorraine had protected the house before her memory began fading. My family had tried to take it after. 3 days before the closing, my father came to the house alone. He stood in the kitchen looking at the cabinets Lorraine had refinished herself. She used to sing in here, he said. I waited. He sat at the table. His hands were shaking. I did not want this, he said. You could stop it. Aaron is in over his head. You could still stop it. He looked toward the living room, where his mother was asleep in her recliner. For 1 second, I thought he would choose her. Then his phone buzzed. Diane. He looked at the screen, stood up, and left. He did not even say goodbye to Lorraine. That was when I understood. Some people do not betray you with a scream. They betray you by leaving. The night before the closing, I bought Lorraine another cake. Vanilla, buttercream, 1 candle. I set 2 plates on the kitchen table. When she came in, she looked at it and smiled. Whose birthday? Yours, I said. We are doing it over. She sat down. I lit the candle. Make a wish. She closed her eyes, then blew it out on the first try. What did you wish for? I asked. She looked at me with a clarity I had learned not to waste. I wished you would stay. I swallowed. I'm staying, Gran. We ate cake with forks that time. Halfway through, she looked toward the table. Don't let them take it. The table? She nodded. The house too, but the table. I put my hand over hers. The table stays. The next afternoon, Ruth called. The title company has flagged the file, she said. They know the house is held in a trust. They are relying on an affidavit from the realtor claiming the trust was dissolved. It was not. No, it was never dissolved. So, what happens tomorrow? Ruth's voice stayed calm. Tomorrow, we put the recorded deed on the table. Capital Title Services was 3 blocks from the town green. A small brick building, tinted windows, brass handle. I parked across the street at 1:45. Ruth arrived 5 minutes later. She carried a leather briefcase. I carried Lorraine's manila folder. Conference room B had 10 chairs around an oval table. A pitcher of water, a printer in the corner. The escrow officer, Linda Yates, was arranging papers into neat stacks. Then my family arrived. My mother first. Cashmere blazer, church pearls, a smile ready for photographs. Aaron behind her, leather portfolio in hand. My father last. Gray-faced, looking at the floor. Then the realtor came in. Then the buyer's representative. Diane saw me. Her smile stayed on her face, but something underneath it broke. "Nora," she said, "what are you doing here?" I pulled out a chair. "Taking a seat." Ruth sat beside me. I placed the folder in front of me. The room went quiet. Linda Yates looked at Ruth. "You said you have documents relevant to this closing." "I do." Ruth opened her briefcase. She placed a certified copy of the recorded trust deed on the table. "This deed was recorded 14 months ago. It transferred Oakwood Lane into the Lorraine E. Caldwell Living Trust." She pointed to me. "Ms. Caldwell is the successor trustee." My mother's smile began to fall. Not all at once. In pieces. Ruth placed the durable power of attorney beside the deed. Lorraine appointed Nora Caldwell as her financial and healthcare agent. Aaron leaned forward. "We have a newer power of attorney." Ruth looked at him. "Yes. Signed during a documented period of medical confusion." Then she placed the doctor's letters down. One from 14 months ago. One from last week. The first confirms Lorraine had full capacity when she created this trust. The second confirms she currently lacks capacity. Any legal documents obtained from her after the cognitive decline are subject to challenge. Linda Yates picked up the trust deed, compared it to the title report, then slowly looked at the realtor. "Ms. Voss, you told us this trust had been dissolved." The realtor went pale. "I was told it had been." "The public record says otherwise," Ruth said. Linda set the pages down. She squared her shoulders. Then she said the 5 words that ended everything. "I cannot close this transaction." Nobody moved. Not my father, not Aaron, not Diane. Even the printer seemed quieter. Then my mother stood up. "This is ridiculous." Her voice rose. "Nora is a paralegal. She has no authority." Ruth did not raise her voice. "She is the successor trustee. She is the only person in this room with authority over this property." Aaron stood too. His face was red. "I have a $740,000 payment due." Linda looked at him. "Your financial obligations are not relevant to this title." "You are destroying this family," Aaron said to me. I looked at him. I had practiced a speech. I had rehearsed facts. I had planned to be quiet, but the words came out simple. "You tried to sell a 79-year-old woman's home while she sat alone on her birthday eating cake." He stared at me. "You had her sign papers when she could not understand them." My mother started crying. Real or not, I did not care anymore. "You lied to the title company. You put strangers in her kitchen. And now you are telling me I am destroying this family?" Aaron had nothing. My father finally looked up. He looked at the trust deed, at his mother's signature, at the folder she had made before she got sick. He looked like a man realizing too late that she had known him better than he knew himself. The buyer's representative quietly closed his portfolio. "I think we are done here," he said. He walked out. The realtor followed. Ruth spoke one last time. "An adult protective services investigation is active. Any further attempt to sell or transfer trust property without trustee authorization will be treated accordingly." Diane wiped her face. Then she looked at me. The tears were still there, but the expression underneath them had changed. "You will regret this." I stood up. I put the folder back in my bag. Then I looked at her. "You do not get to decide what she is worth." I turned to Linda Yates. "Thank you." Then I walked out. The November air hit my face cold and clean. Ruth touched my elbow. "You did well." I did what she asked me to. "That is what I mean," Ruth said. I drove back to Oakwood Lane with the folder on the passenger seat. The porch light was on. The hydrangeas were still blue. The house was still there. Inside, Lorraine was asleep in her recliner. Her crossword rested on her lap. I knelt beside her and tucked the quilt around her shoulders. "It's done, Gran," I whispered. "The house is safe." Her eyes opened, cloudy at first, then clear for 1 second. "Did you keep the table?" I looked toward the kitchen, at the maple table. Scratched, coffee-stained, unmoved. "I kept the table, Gran." She smiled, small, certain. "Good girl." Then she closed her eyes. And for the first time in 9 days, I stopped counting. Have you ever had to protect someone your own family failed? And what state are you watching from?